Okay, thanks for sticking with us, folks. We're going to be threshing here very shortly. We're going to get the other Indiana special ready to go here on the other side, and when we get ready to fire that one up, we'll start the presentation, and we'll do a little bit of threshing here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being patient with us here. We got another rig set up over here to the west of the first section. Welcome everybody out here to Saturday. Old Threshers Day. Appreciate it's a balmy day, but it's better than 100 degrees out. We kind of like that also. We're going to do a little threshing here. We got a hay rack of wheat pulled up here. My name is Russell Lamp. I'm from Let's Iowa. Been helping out down here about all close to 20 years, and privileged to see everybody. See a lot of new faces, old faces. Appreciate everybody coming out today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on here. We're going to do a threshing of the wheat. All the wheat here at Old Threshers is grown just south of town. We have binders. Had a pretty good wheat year. Got quite a few loads of thresh this year. Weather wasn't real good yesterday, but we're adapting with it today. We got binders. We go down. We shock it up down there. They take the shocks after the binders come out. I think we're good. We'll bring that over a little bit. I hope that helps you. Sometimes modern technology isn't the best. There we go. I hope that's okay. So we shocked everything up. The football team from the west end comes over. We load everything up on the hay racks and bring it and store it in the buildings so we can thresh here for you here at the show. What we're doing right here, we got a 36-inch Indiana special right here. This is a Keck Donovan owned by the Nelson family up in Muscatine, Iowa. They kind of oversee all the threshing crews here and get things up and ready to go. Larry was the gentleman that was checking the RPM here on that. We'll talk about that process in a second. The engine that's pulling it today is Mr. Frank Thug from Albia, Iowa. He's got a 22-horse Woods Brothers engine here. Woods Brothers, kind of unique, made right in Des Moines, Iowa, the Woods Brothers machines. He found this machine in Montana, brought it home, looked it over, and you know what? It's not one that's all painted up and looking fancy, but he's got a sweet little engine there. Engines like to be oily and dirty, and that's what we like to see here. It does an awesome job, so we're tickled that he's here with us this year. And Frank is the reigning steam traction engine games champion. So we'll have some fun over in steam traction at 4 o'clock today. We'll do some steam engine games. Welcome everybody to come over there and see what we're doing. So back to the threshing. These engines will set that flywheel about 250 RPM. That's what that engine's running at right now. That's what they were doing earlier. He was setting the governor up there. I guess we can talk about the governor. When you can see Frank up there turning, there's a set of balls on that stem that limits the travel of the stem. So we go to 250 RPMs, and those balls spinning around. You'll see every engine has those in some fashion or another. That is the governor. The faster the engine goes, the farther out those go from centrifugal force, and that shortens the stem going into the steam valve, and that regulates your RPMs. As the engine gets a pull and slows down, the balls come in, the stem extends, goes up, opens up the steam chest, lets more steam into it to hold that RPM at the speed that you want it to stay at. Happens pretty instantaneously. What's interesting is steam is like an electric engine or electric motor. When you put the switch to it, you have that full force of it right there, all at once. It's not like a car where you go through gears and you speed up and shift and speed up and shift. It's all right there. That constant power is there the minute it is released. With that being said, on the steam, we like to have nice dry steam to make it run as economical as it can. The steam is manufactured right here in the boiler. It gathers in the steam dome through the valves right into the engine. When that steam goes into the steam chest, it pushes the cylinder one way, exhausts out the other way, and then the steam chest changes, and then it happens in reverse. And what it does when it exhausts, it comes out the stack. It comes down the side into the smokestack, puffs out the top. That also has a dual function, is not only to make the exhaust, it creates a draft through the flues from the firebox through the draft door at the bottom of the firebox. It's like a campfire. When you stir it up, you give it oxygen, it flares up, and that's exactly what's happening here. That draft is pulling that air through the firebox, through the flues, and up the stack. So that chug you hear is the actual exhaust coming from that engine. Everybody thinks the smoke comes out of the engine. No, it doesn't. The steam comes out of the engine. The smoke is just getting pulled with the draft through the fire door. Then once again, the power is shifted through the crankshaft over to that flywheel and right down here to the thresher machine. Now on the thresher machine, You can see the apron going in. These machines are pretty much like the rocker style combines that you see in the fields today, except actually they're not self-propelled. There's a cylinder right inside the throat. The grain goes in. We like to put the bundles in head first if we can, with all the grain going in first. It hits that cylinder, gets threshed out. The grain drops down into the cleaning pan. Through the fan blows the chaff and straw out the back, and the grain is heavy enough it falls into the clean grain elevator, up the elevator, and right into the wagon through the auger there. Some of these threshing machines are unique. At the top, you'll see like nothing's coming out, and then it'll trip. Now you see grain coming out. There's a weight up there, and you can set that weight. So let's say you set it for 20 pounds. Every time 20 pounds gets in that little hopper, it trips, lets it go in the wagon. There's a counter. So at the end of the day, you can see how many counts it's tripped, take that times 20 pounds, and you know approximately how much weight that you put into the wagon. Kind of a unique deal. Technology advances through the years, but that's how it all started right there. Some threshers had a platform on it, and they would bag it as they threshed it. So this just happens to have the auger on it, and this is how we do it here at Old Threshers. Then the straw goes out the back, and we've got stationary baler. I think they got it over here today. Kind of a unique deal. That's how the first square baler started working. It's hand-tied with wires. Makes an absolute beautiful bale. When they get done threshing, they will bring straw bales back here and back here to the rest, and you'll be able to see how they do that with that stationary baler. A little bit of work, but it does a nice job. With that being said, a lot of the straw, these engines are running on coal and wood, but they do burn straw. We have straw burners, and they have a side port or a rear port and a plunger where you can keep shoving straw into it. So back then when they were threshing, they wanted to utilize that straw. They would bring it around and put it right back into the engine to keep that fire going. But once again, the straw does not nearly burn enough BTUs like wood or coal, so it was almost a constant feed to just keep that straw in there because it's so hot, it almost burns instantaneously. So it was a lot of work to keep the straw hot back there. We have a couple straw burners we've threshed with over the years. I know the Smith guys at the Grand Mount have a straw burner. I don't know if they got it here this year or not, but it kind of shows you how much straw you got to keep into that thing to keep that fire up, to keep producing that steam. As you produce steam, naturally you use your water. There's a sight glass on these boilers. Frank's is down towards the back. When it gets down close to the firebox lid, or the crown sheet we call it, you have steam injectors. Some are mechanical injectors that run off of the crankshaft. Some are actual little steam motors that have a pump on it, and then they pump water into the boiler. There's a check valve to switch the pressure. They will pump water back into that boiler to keep that water level up. And there's a fine tune there. You don't want to put water in too fast because you're putting cool water in the water that is now hot and boiling. That will lower the rate that you're producing steam. So once again, it's a very fine-tuned thing to keep that going. You want to add water to it. You want to keep your steam being produced at the rate that you're using it. And then after you get used to a machine, you get used to how it does. Everything has its quirks. Most of these are the basic design, but it's just like Ford, Dodge, and Chevy. Everybody has their different ideas and their different quirks over the years to see what works and doesn't work. And it's fun to see the different kind of engines come here to Old Threshers to see how the manufacturers was changing things through the year and how it was going down through time and how they adapted and got rid of ideas that ended up not really working that good. But trial and error, that's how the thing is done. I don't know, I think they're making a mess over here on this hay rack. I don't know. They try to get those in there with the heads going up. This threshing machine is a 36-inch separator, pretty good size. I think this afternoon we're going to put the buckboard down the middle and run one on each side. We want to get a little bit bigger engine. Like to get a 40-50 horse engine on it. We can run 2 racks at one time, trying to make it talk just a little bit. We like to do that. We want to work them here. If you want to, during the day, they'll be right over here with the power heater and the fans. You can hear the engine's got a pretty good pull on them. It's a very controlled pull with the power heaters they have. They have a double run. They can have 2 engines on the run over here. Very interesting. If you're walking down the road and you see that going on stop, you can really hear them engines start to you, and they get a nice hot fire going in them, and it's very entertaining to see how they can pull them down. You can see how the belts will collapse and get tight with the pull on the engine, and really see the power that these engines have. A lot of these engines, Frank's Woods Brother would be considered a flying engine. It's a rear mount. You can put this on about 8-10 bottom plow probably. The weight to ratio is very different than today's tractors, so it's interesting to see a small tractor pulling 3 or 4 bottoms, and you hook one of these on to 10, and just let it walk through the sod. It's kind of fun to watch. When we're getting down to the end here, what they'll do, they'll clean up that knives up at the top. Somebody asked me earlier before we got started. Those bundles have one twine wrapped around them, and those knives spinning at the top as that goes in, cuts the shawl, and it also cuts the twine up so that it doesn't get wrapped around in the mechanisms down inside the threshing machine, and then it just goes right into that cylinder and grinds it up. So that's what those knives are doing right up there at the top. And there is a little bit of a centrifugal force clutch on that. If it gets a slug in it, if the RPMs drop too much, that pan stops going in. So it doesn't plug it. It lets it clean out what's there, and when the speed catches back up, you'll see that apron start up again. Kind of a neat little feel that Keck Donovan designed on their thresher machines, but obviously moved on into later technology when you get into the bigger combines and that we have today. Well, we're getting about done. You know, these guys love their machines. If you're out walking around, stop, ask them questions, ask for a ride, pull a couple levers. They want to talk about it. This is a lot of people's vacation. They come here, they work for 2 weeks before the show, and during the show, it's what they love to do. And they love to show you their equipment and what they fixed up and done. And please do not hesitate to ask any questions or come in to people and ask for a ride, because it really is a labor of love and they really enjoy it. Everybody wants to know, is it farmers that do this? No, it's not. I am a farmer. I'm also an auctioneer. Frank owns an auto parts store. We have mechanics. We have machinists. We have lawyers and doctors and insurance people. It is really a vast realm of people that really love this old iron steam hobby, and it isn't just downgraded to one type of people. It's fun to see the different demographics you have putting these things together. Old Threshers that come here for the show every year. So they're getting about done with the hay rack. Appreciate everybody coming out watching the threshing this year. We'll be back here at 3 to 3:30 doing it again. We're going to do a double rack, I think, with the buckboard on this Keck Donovan. Have safe travels home. Any questions, come up and ask us. Appreciate everybody being here and putting up with the balmy weather. And have safe travels home. Thank you very much.